Alrighty, welcome to the TULLOCH Clan channel, and we're going to have a little chit chat about steroid use in sport. It's an interesting topic, and a topic that really has been going on since the beginning of time, since the beginning of sport, even going back as far as the early 1900s in the Tour de France. So the Tour de France has a massive history of steroid use, as well as stimulants, and there's some really crazy historical stories going back of people trying to do it with cocaine and amphetamines and drunk and all sorts of crazy stuff. Okay, and then obviously we went through eras where there was government involvement, Olympic programs. Eastern Bloc has a huge reputation for a big steroid program through the probably what it must have been the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s. Recently, we obviously had the Russians were banned from the Olympics. I don't want to pick on the Russians and the Eastern Bloc, because I have 100% no doubt that the West was involved as well, and obviously China, Asia, everywhere. Okay, they're all on steroids. Everybody is on effing steroids. Okay. So my position is pretty clear. I'm very cynical when it comes to steroid use in sports. I believe that at the highest level, most of the champions, most of the winners are on steroids. And my view on this has just come from, why wouldn't you? Okay, if you were in that position, and maybe it says a lot about myself, but if you're in that position, everybody else has access to steroids, you are able to get away with it, and it's going to ensure that you win, why wouldn't you do it? And then the thing that really gets it for me is there's people who are doing steroids, getting caught, who aren't winning, who aren't even like competitive in some instances. So that makes me wonder, okay, well, if all of these people are getting caught on drugs, then surely the ones who are beating them must be doing something. Okay, I'm just using logic here. Maybe they have better training methods, but you know what I'm saying? There's like, it just seems to me that there's this massive cloud over international sport and sport in general, where there is definitely steroid use going on, prolific steroid use, and I'm very cynical. I think it's of the highest degree, the highest order. The Olympics, I think the Olympics is just a massive scam, sham, huge amount of steroid use going on, government programs. We're seeing it with the Russians, but you can't tell me that the Americans weren't jumping on board. I watched a particular series, I think it was Graham Bessinger who interviewed Victor Conti, and that was just so revealing about, you know, government involvement, all of these programs that are taking place. You're looking at the Jamaicans who are getting all of these sprinters coming through, heaps of them being caught for steroids. Surely, you know, it's just, come on, can we just use a little bit of logic? Now, steroids, yes, you have my view. Maybe you're not so cynical, but why would people take steroids? Well, it's got to be down to the earnings. Massive earning potential. You could think, okay, if you're a young rugby player here in New Zealand coming through, you might be 17, 18, 19. You're trying to break through to the NPC level, then bust into, you know, Super Rugby level. Well, why wouldn't you get on the gear and get jacked, you know, while you're 17, 18, 19, get all of those gains, get all the strength gains, so that by the time you're a young adult heading into, you know, your super career. And that's, surely that must be happening, because the earnings are astronomical. You become an All Black, you become even a Super Rugby player, you're going to be guaranteed to be travelling the world, playing professional sport to your mid-30s, even out to your 40. Okay, so it's a big deal. So that's the earnings. The other thing is the punishments aren't harsh enough. We need life bans. If you want to deter people, there needs to be a life ban. There needs to be a real disincentive, because people are getting banned. They might get banned for a couple of years, but they've already won. They've already got all of the kudos. They've already got all the notoriety. They've got the money, the earnings. So the punishment clearly isn't enough to deter people from doing steroids. Coaches. Now, where there's smoke, there's fire. When we have a look at the coaches, once again, I'm quite cynical. I think if there's a coach and they have a stable of athletes, or they have a team or whatever, and some of them are jumping on the roids, some of them are getting on the gear, then most of them are probably getting on the gear. They're being offered the gear at very least. And then peer pressure would take over, and it would just be a roll-on effect. Surely, yes, sure, some won't use steroids, but when coaches are involved, it's like Mo Farah. Do we really think that Mo Farah is clean? I don't know 100%. I'm just speculating. Hey, I for sure 100% don't know, but if I had to bet my life on it, I would say that I think he's probably dirty. You know, that's what I would say. And not just him, a whole lot of other athletes. Now, the solution. What is the solution to this steroid thing? I think there's two options. We can either really start policing steroids harshly, which was my initial view, because I want it to be fair. I get really annoyed when things aren't fair. It's one of my pet peeves in sport, is when things aren't fair, the rules get broken. Or I would just say, hey, why don't we just open this up? Can we just open this up? Get the level playing field. Everybody gets access to these same steroids. Everyone gets dosed up. But then the problem's going to become that we're just going to see advancements of drugs. Some people will have better drugs than other people, and there'll be these all sorts of problems going on like this. So, out of this, what can we conclude? We can conclude that steroids are going to be involved in sport as long as sport exists. People are always going to be trying to get an edge. We can conclude that the cost of running steroid testing programs is prohibitive. We can see that the punishments are quite harsh, but they're not really there. We're seeing that people are getting around the testing process, and I think the main way that people are getting around it are just sort of, they're not being available, or they're calling it unavailable for certain tests, and then they get away with it, and then that hits a reset, and you can only do that a certain amount of times in a certain window, but they're just away, and they'll be microdosing, and they just go away for a window, get on it. So there's all sorts of stuff going on with the people on steroids. The conclusion is, it's going to happen. People are going to do it. You'd be mad not to, for all of the earnings that you could earn, the notoriety, fame. You can understand why people do it. I'm cynical. I think most of the top people do it. Other people out there like to think that, you know, the true champions don't do it. Hey, maybe you're right. That is the team wrapping up TULLOCH Clan Sports News, steroid use.